to my channel, and this is the part 2 of the video I did about why the divine masculine feels disgust towards us, right? So this one is titled Why the Divine Feminine Looks at the Divine Masculine with Disgust. So, welcome back to my channel. And if you are new here, this is where we talk about the real parts of the twin flame journey, the truths, the wisdom, the experiences that one goes through in a real twin flame journey. And this is a channel where we talk about a lot of things that most people wouldn't even want to talk about, so this channel, disclaimer, not the fantasy version, not the sugar coated soulmate version, but the raw initiation of collapse, purge, and sacred union. And today we are going to go deep into one of the most confronting stages of the journey for the divine feminine. The moment you start looking at your divine masculine with disgust. Disgust. Yes, disgust. And I use the word very intentionally because it's a stage so many of us experience but then feel ashamed to admit. Because we start to ask ourselves, how can I feel disgust for someone I know is my other half? And what does that mean? Did I make it up? Or was it all an illusion? But what I really want you guys to hear right now is at the start, it's always this way. So that's why I want you to hear this right now, that disgust is not the end of love. It is the beginning of clarity, and it's very, very sacred, and it's very, very necessary, and it's one of the most important thresholds you will come across on this path. So today we're going to unpack exactly why this happens and what it means spiritually and psychologically, and how to hold it without collapsing into shame. All right. So you're probably, many of you guys may be at this stage where the tables have flipped and you are actually feeling a lot of sacred disgust with your divine masculine. So let's start with the pedestal. Almost every divine feminine, we begin here. When we first meet our divine masculine, our recognition is instant, it's cellular. We see his soul, we feel at home, and in that recognition, we think this is it. This is him. He's perfect. And without even realizing it, we put our beloved divine masculine up on a pedestal. See, the thing about pedestal is when you put someone up, that means you can never reach them. So why would you want to put someone up, right? So now you don't think you're doing that. You think you're just honoring the truth. I must worship my divine masculine. He is everything to me. You think you're just seeing his soul, but what actually happens is you start to blur the lines between the man in front of you and the soul you recognize behind him. So, what happens? We excuse our beloved divine masculine's behavior, we overlook his avoidance, we minimize the karmics, the distractions, the silence, because we are convinced he's my other half, he's my divine husband, he's flawless, he will come around. And here's the thing about pedestalization, you know, the thing about pedestals are they always crack, and at some point you stop seeing the soul and you start to see the shadow. You see the ego, the fear, the smallness, and suddenly the very man you thought was godlike now looks weak, avoidant, and even cowardly, especially, and that's when disgust sets in, not because you don't love him, but because you can no longer reconcile the man in front of you with the soul you know he truly is. And the gap becomes intolerable, like totally, totally intolerable. And so you may start to think, why are you going through this? What is actually happening to you? And why must you face this? Or why must you experience this? And what exactly is going on? And then you start to notice that the moment you start to acknowledge this part, your entire journey starts to shift. You start to look at yourself and you realize, hey, what am I trying to do? And that's why I wanted to, go a bit more deeper into the whole pedestalization phase a little bit more, you know. When you are actually so convinced, hey, pedestal state, this is what's going on, I'm trying to figure it out, this is what everything is about. But what you fail to understand is that when you start to go really deep, and when you start to realize that what you're experiencing needs to hit a point of balance, and that's the reason why you may be tolerating everything, his avoidance, his silence, as I was talking about. But when the pedestal cracks, you start to see beyond, and that's when the disgust comes in, and how he's living beneath it, disgust at the gap between what you know he could be and what he's currently showing up as. So for the divine feminine, disgust isn't random. It's actually a protection mechanism. Our nervous system steps in and says enough. It's our body's way of stopping us from pouring our energy into a version of him that is not ready. So let's be honest, many divine feminines would keep chasing forever if they didn't hit a wall. So you keep hoping, keep waiting, keep collapsing yourself into nothing just to hold space for him. So disgust breaks the spell. It makes you pull your energy back and it protects your field. Think of it like a psychic immune response. Just like the body develops antibodies to protect itself, your soul develops disgust to stop you from feeding its shadow. So that's the reason why you may feel like no matter how deep you go in, and you start to realize that disgust is actually protection, you start to delve deeper and realize this disgust isn't random either. It's not about suddenly deciding you don't love him anymore. Disgust is multi-layered protection mechanism. That's why our nervous system steps in and says enough, stop, we are not putting in energy into this anymore. And that's when you realize, hey, the person I put up in a pedestal is actually doing this to me. He is behaving like this to me, and if I keep on trying to apologize or trying to explain, I'm showing how, you see, apologizing and being vulnerable is one thing, but when your divine masculine is exemplifying behavior that is actually very, very disgusting. For example, he shuts the door on you, or he tells you off, or he hurts you in a public place, or he triggers you to the point where it's unreasonable. And if you keep putting him up on a pedestal and you keep begging him for his forgiveness, then you're showing him that you have no backbone. And would he want to be with a divine feminine who can't stand up for herself, So he is kind of like asking you, hey, when he's in the wrong, call him out on it. And when you are in the wrong, admit it, And that's the sacred balance. And that's why disgust is a protection mechanism. Because when you start placing him, taking him out of the pedestal and start to um, place him right next to you, you will realize that you're you are one half of a soul, one soul split into two bodies, beautiful and unique in your own ways, and divine feminine and divine masculine, divine husband and divine wife. So would you put your divine husband up on a pedestal? So let's bring the 3D marriage example. Do you see any wife putting a husband up on a pedestal? In fact, if she can put him in the same level, that in itself is a big deal. So what I'm trying to say is the pedestalization is what creates that behavior from your divine masculine, that chasing, that pathetic behavior of begging him, apologizing to him, wanting him to be in your space, not giving him the space, and he treats you in a way that may not be right, but he has to do what he has to do. If not, you will never awaken to your goddess energies. Goddesses never put anyone up on a pedestal. In fact, no one should put anyone on a pedestal at all. So that's why our nervous system steps in and says, enough, stop. Why are you thinking that you made a mistake? So that's why we are not pouring energy into this anymore. And because if disgust didn't rise, you will keep chasing, you'll keep tolerating breadcrumbs, you will keep letting him say whatever he wants to say and treat you however he wants to treat you, and not have accountability at all. Is that what you want your divine husband to be? Someone who doesn't even understand what it is to be kind and sensitive, to draw boundaries. In fact, that's what he wants you to do, draw boundaries. So you'll keep excuse me, you'll keep collapsing yourself into less and less, waiting for him to wake up. So disgust functions, like I mentioned earlier, a psychic immune response, just like your body, like I was saying, right? Just like how our body produces antibodies when something harmful comes in, our soul produces disgust. When you have been overgiving, over chasing, over collapsing into his shadow. Like, for example, if he rejects you, if he blocks you, accept it. What can happen? If you're really on a twin flame journey, if he is your divine masculine, the story is not going to end. Why must you crash when he blocks you, or when he says that he will never ever 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 speak to you again, or says that I'm not interested or anything, right? Or if he accuses you of something that you don't do? If you keep over giving, over chasing, and even admitting something you didn't even do, for example, you're not even stalking him and he accuses you of stalking, are you going to just admit it? Come on. Just because he cannot deal with his 5D and he feels your energies, it's his problem. He is not balancing his fields. So he is not, him using those words are not only cruel but reflects how, as divine feminines, we can really 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 become weak at the moment of just wanting to spend 1 second more. Why must you be so desperate for that 1 second more? Of course, you're seeing your DM lifetime after lifetime, you just want to be together, but why? That's why when you start looking at his behavior, you start listening to his words, and you start feeling disgust, sacred balance is born. You won't be apologizing to him. Neither does he have to apologize to you, but something new is being born. Realization that you don't need to admit to something that you never did. And he too can't just say whatever he wants to say because he can say whatever he wants to say, right? It's your soul's way of saying you can't pedestalize him anymore. You can't romanticize his avoidance anymore. You can't feed this distorted version of him anymore. And in that way, disgust is your greatest ally. It breaks the spell, it pulls your energy back, it protects your field from depletion. So that's why I wanted to go deeper into the archetype of disillusionment, Now, here's when many divine feminines get confused. When disgust shows up, you start thinking, maybe I don't love him. Maybe I was wrong about all of this. Maybe this isn't even my twin flame. Sacred doubt. Doubt, excellent. It's really, really good to practice discernment and doubt. But let me tell you, disgust is not proof that you have stopped loving him. It's proof that you have stopped loving the illusion of him. And that is the biggest veil breaking that you can ever do for yourself. You're not disgusted at his soul. You are disgusted at the mask, at the avoidance, at the karmic detours for category 1, at the passive aggressiveness, category 2. Like, for example, you don't see him for years and you turn up before him and he accuses you of stalking him. That would be the most ridiculous thing to ever say, right? Just because he cannot deal with his mind, just because he cannot deal with you energetically. So that's why category 1, choosing someone else constantly. Category 2, trying to dismiss the connection like it doesn't exist at all. Dismissing the feminine. You don't even have to respect the feminine. You don't have to dishonor her. But that's the only way to crack the feminine up, to wake her up. And that's why I say you're not disgusted at his soul. You're disgusted at the mask, at the avoidance. And in so many levels, this stage is the archetype of disillusionment. And disillusionment is sacred. Why? Because it forces you to separate truth from fantasy. Up until now, you may have been in love with his potential, with the soul you see beneath the distortion. But disillusionment makes you say, I don't love the man he's pretending to be. I love the soul underneath, and I refuse to waste myself on this mask any longer. And this is the stage where many divine feminines pull their power back. This is when we pull our power back. So may the rejection have happened over a text message, or on a plane, or on a train, or on a bus, or in a mall. This is the very stage you pull your power back. You stop waiting, you stop tolerating, you stop making excuses, and you stop dealing with his bullshit, and you put a stop. If he is going to behave to you in 3D, then you're going to cut off all contact in 5D. Boundaries, I mean. Because acknowledging that his behavior is disgusting is very, very necessary. Because when you are pedestalizing your divine masculine, anything he does, you will only find fault in yourself. You may have been in fault, but he's too at fault, right? Because certain things, like certain words he uses, I've had clients saying that the DM is accusing her of stalking when she has hardly even messaged him or hardly even been around. So just because that divine masculine cannot deal with himself thinking about her constantly, how can he accuse the divine feminine? That is passive aggressiveness, right? That is projection, isn't it? Or literally running away, not even giving her the time of the day. This has happened. Divine feminines haven't seen each other for 5 6 years. Wouldn't even give that person the time of the day, has to run, wouldn't even speak. Then how about all the times that they spend together? Hours and hours and hours. Is that his way of trying to drive her mad, trying to drive her crazy, trying to dismiss that such a relationship ever even existed? How about the accountability there? See, even in 3D connections, there's accountability. Even the enemy would apologize at some point. Always. You know, normal people can carry the guilt of hurting someone and apologize eventually. But the divine masculine, when they are so caught up in the illusion that they are right, you see, the hurting is also part of breaking the divine feminine's pedestalization. But at the same time, it's also giving the divine feminine an opportunity to see how disgusting the divine masculine can become. And I'm not even talking about past lives. That's why you always have that period of hanging out a lot, right? What happens to that period when the divine masculine behaves like nothing ever exists? No accountability, no avenue to ask for forgiveness. This is a behavior that is going to continue to affect his professional life, because he's not manning up and taking responsibility, being a gentleman, doing the right thing. As the divine feminine, what we can do is accept it, honor it. This is who he is, the man, not God. Just a man who's very, very broken, right? Or even if he's not broken, he doesn't owe you anything. Just because he's your divine masculine, does he owe you anything? Nothing. Because that's freedom, isn't it? And think about it, turn it around. How disgusting it is for the divine feminine to chase the divine masculine. And how disgusting is it for the divine masculine to run? He's a man, right? Like, what threat can a woman offer? But anyway, it's all part of the process, the higher self's way of breaking that pedestalization process, showing how weak and disgusting your divine masculine can be in his actions. I've so many clients share with me, some I can't even share. It's very heartbreaking, the way, but it's part of the process. If not, there is no balance. But here's where the mirror flips. Remember, earlier in the journey, I talked about, right, part 1, he looked at you with disgust. His body recoiled from your light because it exposed his shadows. Now look at him with sacred disgust, because his shadow offends your light. It's the same mirror but inverted. When you look at him and think, how could I have ever loved this man? He disgusts me. What you're really saying is, I cannot stand his distortion anymore. I want his soul, not his mask. And this is why disgust feels so extreme. It's not just, I don't like his behavior. It's a full body rejection, because your soul literally cannot tolerate his distortion anymore. And that's exactly what needs to happen, because until you recoil, you will keep engaging, you will keep begging for his forgiveness, you will keep looking for windows to communicate. Just accept it. He blocks you, he rejects you, he ghosts you, he doesn't talk to you. Just deal with it. What worse can happen, right? You have another lifetime. Or no lifetimes at all. What worse can happen? Because union in itself, if you look at it, it's only the ego making us fear that if you don't get into union, you have lost. But twin flame journey is not about winning or losing. Twin flame journey is about experiencing multidimensionality and exploring and evolving. So that's why, that's exactly what needs to happen. Because until you recoil, you will keep engaging and until you stop engaging, you will never be forced to rise. So your disgust is sacred because it creates the boundary your soul needs in order to awaken. Your disgust is not cruel. Your disgust is not punishment. Your disgust is alignment. It's the sacred no. It's the soul level refusal to keep playing with distortion. And here's the paradox. That disgust is often the very thing that finally awakens him, because until the feminine pulls back, the masculine can feed on a light indefinitely. But once she withdraws in disgust, he's left with himself. No more hiding, no more projection, no more escape, no more hurting, no more blocking, no more insulting, no more humiliating events. That's when he finally faces his own shadow. And often, what he does to his divine feminine will always come back as lessons. For example, he rejected you out of no reason, people will just keep rejecting him. If he insulted you for nothing, many people will insult him. Because that's the only way for the universe to awaken our divine masculine. So for us, what he does awakens us. What he does to us, the world will help him see. So that's when he finally faces his own shadow, and that's when he starts his real awakening, like I said. So that's the reason why our discuss is not a failure of the connection. I know I'm keep repeating this, but I want to emphasize on it. It's the refining, it's the refinement of the journey in itself. It's what clears the pedestal, burns away fantasy and forces both of you into truth. Eventually, the disgust softens. It's not meant to last forever. Once it's done its job, once it's shattered the pedestal, broken the trance, and pulled your energy back, it dissolves into something higher. You move into neutrality, the 0 point state, into clarity, into compassion without collapse, and you look at your divine masculine and see he is not a god, not a villain, but a man on a journey, wrestling with his own shadow. And from that place, you are no longer chained to his avoidance, but seduced. You're no longer chained to his avoidance, nor seduced by his potential. You can love him without worshipping him. You can hold compassion without losing yourself. That's the power of moving through sacred disgust into neutrality. So let me leave you with this. When you, as the divine feminine, feel disgust for your divine masculine, it's not the end of love. It's the birth of clarity. It is the moment you stop feeding his shadow and start anchoring your wholeness. And that is exactly when the journey shifts. And this is exactly what the journey is designed to do. To strip away illusion until only the real remains. So, my question for you today is this: have you ever reached that point, that moment where you looked at him and thought, I can't believe I ever chased this. I can't believe I ever did this. I can't stand it anymore. Did it shift your power? Did it break the pedestal? Share your story below. Because what feels like shame for you might be the very lifeline another divine feminine needs to hear today. So I know this is a topic that can really trigger because it goes really deep, and the moment you see, it takes a lot for the divine feminine to get disgusted. It takes a lot for us to feel, but the discuss is designed to break the illusion and to drop the pedestalization. So consider it part of the journey. What your divine masculine did, yes, it is disgusting, but he did what he did, and you make peace with it. And that's when, you can still hold compassion without losing yourself. And that's what it is about. And deep down, if you really look at this, the journey in itself, you will realize how far you have come. And you will also notice that you are no longer trapped in a narrative that, oh, he's my divine masculine, I need to worship him forever. And if you missed part one about his disgust toward you, go back and watch it, because together these two teachings will make the entire cycle of sacred disgust crystal clear. So with that, if you guys want to work one-on-one with me, you can book a session with me. I do all my sessions via Zoom, live video call, and you can ask me as many questions as you want during the session, and we can delve deeper into your journey. I can connect your Akashic records, your book of life, offer you psychic guidance, can offer you guidance on your journey. If you want to work one-on-one with me, check out my website. I've also introduced quite a number of healings for this season, so do check that out too. With that, see you all again, and take care, and blessings to you all. All right, be kind to yourself, guys. It's a tough journey.